Oh, okay, there you go.
But if I may use some redundant.
Yes.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I call to order the meeting of the Manassas Park Governing Body for Tuesday, March 5th, 2024. First, we have approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you. Please join us for a moment of silence. And Councilmember Moore, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we have public comment time. We have two folks who are signed up. First is Mr. Mike Smith. Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Sarah will be timing you. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the governing body. Mike Smith, 182 Colfax. I have 3 comments tonight on different topics. The first is, I wanted to ask the city council, or the city can provide any update to the residents on how the search for a new city manager will be handled, who the interim city manager will be, or any other information you can share on this topic. My second comment is from tonight's agenda. I saw the green plan mentioned on there, and I'm looking forward to hearing that update. I did see that there are some good opportunities, which I feel that we as a city should be doing to keep pace with the rest of the Northern Virginia region from a technology and an environmental perspective, so I'm looking forward to that. My third comment, and I just got this in an email earlier today, my car insurance went up $190, my premiums, and when I asked why, they said it's because of the number of uninsured motorists and hit and runs in this zip code. So I know that you guys hear that every week, the problems with speeding, the problems with the hit and runs, the problems with the uninsured motorists. And I feel like that's a point that is not brought up very often, that it affects everyone who lives in this city. When we have this rampant amount of negligent drivers hitting everything, driving through yards, it affects all residents, if not their cars themselves, but in their pocketbooks when they pay their insurance premiums. So hope we can get that issue under control soon here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Do you care to make any responses?
I mean, not really. If it's zip code tied, even if we were to tamp that down in our city, I mean, Councilmember Hampton saw the data that I shared with her for Yorkshire, which is in the county. Same zip code. It's a tremendous number.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean we're not trying to reduce it here, and we're certainly actively enforcing. We have in the budget in the long run a traffic enforcement division as well to keep adding to that enforcement as well. But unfortunately for insurance premiums, if it's tied to the zip code, we only have control of a little piece of that.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Tyler Regula. Good evening. Approach the microphone, state your name and address, and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, good evening. It's a long time. Tyler Regula, 281 Mosby Drive. I just got one topic tonight. A couple of different residents have kind of reached out to me in regards to trash again on the city streets. In particular, dog walking. Dogs are picking up trash, eating chicken bones, that kind of stuff. Is there anything we can do as far as looking at third-party cleanup services, getting the city more involved for cleaning the streets? Ideas, essentially, is what I'm looking for. And that's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Is there anyone who is not signed up who would still like to make public comment? Seeing no one and hearing no one, we will move on. Councilmember Hampton will be here this evening. She's running about 10 minutes late or so, but she will be in attendance. Okay, we have no public hearing. Moving on to item number 6 is a proclamation to proclaim March 2024 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month. Whereas since 1979, the ARC of the United States, a charity devoted to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, has sponsored this annual observance And whereas during the month of March, efforts focus on increasing public awareness of developmental disabilities, and whereas the goal is to enhance the community's understanding of the issues affecting people with developmental disabilities and their families, the importance of their inclusion in all aspects of community life, and to increase knowledge of the needs and abilities of people with these disabilities. And whereas in Prince William County, they have several events scheduled recognizing acts of appreciation of private provider, direct support staff, film fund for people and their caregivers, and CSDD staff training and team building events. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor, on behalf of the governing body of the City of Manassas Park, does hereby recognize the month of March 2024 as Developmental Disability Awareness Month, and proclaims their continued support for increased knowledge of the needs and the abilities of people with these disabilities. Do we have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you very much. We have with us this evening Ms. Jacqueline Jackson Turner. Would you like to come to the microphone and say a few words? Thank you. Speak directly in so that it'll pick up. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor
Yeah,
Michelle, and to the rest of the City Council members and the residents of Manassas Park. We thank you very much for this opportunity, your recognition of the people with developmental disabilities who reside in your community and throughout this region. We wanted to support and encourage you as you make decisions about housing, employers who come here, events and activities that you create, that you consider the people who have developmental disabilities in all aspects of this. Manassas Park is growing rapidly since I last drove through here. And so in housing opportunities, we look for integrated housing for people with developmental disabilities with their supports. So when you have developers come in, to talk with them about making sure you have accessible units for people who are there, for your communities or employers who develop here, that they consider people that we serve who have skills, who are willing to contribute to our community. And we want to thank the residents in the different neighborhoods who have been welcoming for those who have moved into their communities, include them in all the social activities. Your Parks and Recs has been a long-term supporter that people that we serve take advantage of. So thank all of you, and just remember to continue to consider the citizens that we support, who are our neighbors, our families, our friends. Reach out and be helpful. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. That is very important. Thank you. And we have the signed proclamation. Let me. Okay, next we have 8A, which is the Green Plan update. Welcome, Mark.
Good to be here.
Okay, good evening. Before we get started here, just kind of background. This is a CIP item that we have right now for about $100,000 to do a green sustainable plan for the city. As part of those discussions in the budget last year, Councilmember Moore informed us that COG was doing a lot related to this. So once we hired Mark this past summer, who's our General Services Administrator, this became an other duty as assigned. We don't have a sustainability officer in our city like other jurisdictions do, so it's just another duty assigned to the General Services Division. So Mark has been doing some research partnering with COG to see what's available. Unfortunately, even though there's a lot of plans in the region, you'll see for actual individualized plans, there are contract vehicles that we can ride. You'll see the Falls Church example, the Laurel example. There's going to have to be a little bit more budget allocated to this to get this done, but that's what Mark's going to go over. But it is feasible to do something like this. We can just follow the model of Falls Church and Laurel and knock this out. And essentially the goal of this would be to develop policy, develop program recommendations, develop a CIP roadmap like we did for the IT strategic plan as well. And then Mark's also going to talk about some EV charging options that we want to start looking at as well. So informational, but also we're looking for some guidance as well. So Mark.
Thank you very much. As Laszlo said, Mark Lozier, the General Services Administrator. I do not know a lot about environmental action or action plans, but I know a lot about procurement and general government in general. So I'm happy to be here tonight, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and governing body members to present some of the research I found out about the Green Plan. And for the Green Plan, our best approach for the Green Plan is definitely, clicker, here we go, is you have a body, a regional body, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, that is very much involved in Green Plan strategy. They have commissioned a number of studies that more or less inform the region as it relates to Green Plan resources. And so they are kind of the regional coordinating agency for Green Plan activities. And I spent some time and spoke to them, and there's two topics I'm going to talk about tonight. The first being the greenhouse gas and climate change aspects of the Green Plan, and the second being the EV charging infrastructure. Why COG? Why are we using them to promote, Manassas Park Green Plan? Well, they are the regional and metro scale climate leader, and they've been awarded the Global Covenant of Mayors Award for Climate and Energy, and have followed the GCOM's best practices. So they're really into, I would consider them subject matter experts as it relates to green and Green Plan energy. This also requires a regional approach. And you'll see some slides where I talk about data that really show that Manassas Park is that tiny little piece of the regional greenhouse gas emissions. It's almost negligible as far as our impact as a city, because we're just small, and this is a very large metro area. I am going to talk about some tools for EV infrastructure as well that MWCOG has made available as well. So we'll get right into it. The 4 guiding documents are listed on this slide. The Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. The core document is number 1, the Metropolitan Washington 2030 Climate Energy Action Plan. In it, it has greenhouse gas mitigation strategies, and there is a significant piece about building out the regional electric vehicle infrastructure. Item number 2 is highlighted in yellow, and the reason it's highlighted in yellow is there's a recent study completed by COG called the Priority Climate Action Plan, the PSAP draft. That was in January. What this study does on a regional basis is it allows us as an entity, because we are an MWCOG member, to apply for these grants called climate pollution reduction grants. So this study done through COG enables us to go for some federal monies. So that's just a recent development, and that study's in draft mode. So that's a good thing for the city of Manassas Park. The third item is there's another Region United Metropolitan Washington framework for greenhouse gas planning and emissions. And finally, there's a regional electric vehicle deployment clearinghouse. Because of the national electric vehicle infrastructure monies that's been pumped in by the federal government, there is a significant focus on regional EV deployment. So that's going to be like the big effort in addition to your climate action energy plan. And I'll cover some of the things about that in a minute. Takeaway for this, the climate goal is to achieve at the regional level a reduction in greenhouse gas emissions of 50% from 2005 to 2030. We have achieved regionally our 2020 targets, and I'll go over those in a minute. Here's some of the background. This is a slide that shows the regions. This is million metric tons of CO2 equivalent, also known as greenhouse gases. This slide basically shows you in 2005, this region was at 75 million metric tons of greenhouse gases. You can see that up at the top on the blue. And the timeline goes to the right. As you get to 2020, that orange box, you see the blue line, we've reduced our greenhouse gases by a significant amount. That amount, you can see the line, the pink line is 75 million, and now it's down to 58 million. and that is a 29% reduction in that 15-year period. Where do they want to go? For 2030, they want to get it down 50%, and then for 2050, 80% reduction. Those are the future goals. So on a regional level, we've met the first goal for a greenhouse gas reduction. This slide is specific to the city of Manassas Park. Now, our numbers are much smaller than the region's numbers. We're in thousands of metric tons, not in millions. And as you can see by the slide, Manassas Park in 2005 was at approximately, you can see the line there, I would say it's 130,000 metric tons. And now if you go down the slide 15 years, as I did on the prior slide, we go down, I'm giving it a conservative about 105,000 metric tons. Now the blue box is important because this shows how we are as a metric, as a ratio to the greater community, the greater region. And so we went down from 130 to 105. The metro region went down from 75 million to 58 million. Now our piece of that bigger pie is less than 1%. It's 0.18% of the greenhouse gases. What's my point? You can do anything you want to do and you're not going to impact the regional greenhouse gases. We're just too small. That's important for everyone to know. You could spend millions of dollars and, it's like in a global level, we argue that, China's building coal power plants and we're taking the hit on greenhouse gases because we're being clean. And so our impact is being wasted away. So we are less than 1/5 of 1% of the greenhouse gas in the region. Part of the Climate Energy Action Plan, it has 8 climate action areas and 25 specific goals. I took some slides, and the items that I highlighted in yellow are things that the city of Manassas Park has moved the needle on. I'm going to cover the first 7 areas real quick, and then I'm going to focus on the 8th area, which is the electric vehicles, in a minute. So for these first three of the 7 areas, mode shift and travel behavior, zero waste, and sequestration, which is basically planting trees which clean the air. It's a technical term. I learned that. I had to look it up because I'm not an environmentalist. So the items for mode shift and travel behavior, we have as a city, as a transit-oriented development city, have done efforts to bring jobs to the downtown, bring people to the downtown, bring modes of travel to the downtown, and enhance options for commuters. Just by the downtown development, you can check all 3 of those boxes. And if you all have been, I've been living this 8 months, you've been living it for years, so you know what I'm talking about. So, and you can see it coming out of the ground. So I'd have to say we moved the needle as it relates very significantly on mode shift and travel behavior. Zero waste, the one that is highlighted, curbside organics, the yard waste program that was implemented. I talked to the solid waste manager. That is, in essence, a form of recycling. It's organic material that's coming out of the waste stream and being recycled. So there's some efforts there that you should get kudos for. And then on the strategically plant new trees on publicly owned land, you've seen the items coming before you about the downtown and the downtown tree planting, strategic planning. There's a whole process going on underway right now that you've seen that Steve Hall has brought to you, and all of those plans, those are actually being implemented right now. So on the first slide, on the first set of 10 actions, we have 5 in play. So you're at 50%, but that's only half the story. So we'll go to the next slides, and we'll go a little faster because there's not a lot to talk about in the next groups. Next 3 groups are planning, equity, and clean electricity. You could probably say that we've done some things in these areas if you stretch it, but we're not in the clean electricity, kind of market game. I would say EQ1 We are working on a housing affordability study right now. Is that equity? Is that enabling equitable planning practices? I don't know. So, but these are some additional activities that are in the Climate and Energy Action Plan. Zero energy buildings. I know that this building was LEED certified. I'm not sure if it's gold or silver, so that's a good one, but it's not zero energy building, so these are some of the other things that we can put in our portfolio and we can make as actions. We just really need to, if we want to do some of these things, probably implement a comp plan update that gives you some long-range energy and efficiency activities. And I'll get to that in a minute as we go through the slideshow. So let me summarize just the greenhouse gases, and then I'm going to go on to the electric vehicles. Out of the 7 of the 8 climate action areas, we have 5 items that I've talked about. That's 23%. I could say you have made some movement in there without even having a plan. So there's actions and activities that you're taking that have moved the needle as it relates to the green plan. Impact, I mentioned that we're only 0.18% of the region's greenhouse gas load. So we have a minuscule impact on that aspect as it relates to, so where the MWCOG goes, where the region goes, where the metropolitan statistical area goes, we're going to go. We're surrounded by it. So opportunities. I'm going to get into the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments tool. They have a really big and robust toolbox to do something about this, and I'm going to talk about that next. As a matter of fact, they have commissioned 6 specific contracts that are in place right now with technical services. You have from A through D, you have 6 companies that are under contract with Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments that can do technical services that would actually help with a local green plan strategy. They would, in essence, use the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments framework and tailor a plan for the city if we so chose to do that. When I spoke to them, they said they've done this with 2 other cities, Falls Church, Virginia, and Laurel, Maryland, and their study cost to do that effort, that next level effort for the locality, was $148,000 for Falls Church and $165,000 for Laurel, Maryland. We currently have a $100,000 item budgeted in the CIP. Laszlo and I had a great discussion about, well, the bigger picture on the comp plan. What does it say in the comp plan? I looked at the comp plan. There's really not a lot about green energy things in the comp plan. So one of the thoughts that we kicked around was, maybe you do something related to enhancing the comp plan related to a green energy plan and put elements in your comp plan, strategies and objectives that speak to a green plan that are not there now. You have bare bones, environmental, anything that's required by the law you have, but beyond that you don't. So our idea, it was Laszlo's, of course, he's a very creative individual. Why don't we do that? Because we'll have a long-term investment. It won't go by the wayside. And we could do that as a phase 1, maybe go into a phase 2 that gets into some more details, but you'll always have a better environment section in your comp plan, chapter 7 of your comp plan. That was just an idea.
Yeah, just to add, so think of it this way. Phase 1, a lot of jurisdictions have already done this. This is incorporating your goals into the and the community's goals into the comprehensive plan. So laying out metrics that you want to accomplish, right? Having a consultant develop that for you and developing high-level action plans. This next one then would be the outline of specific programs and your CIP. Okay, so it's kind of a 2-part, and that's how most jurisdictions are doing this. Most jurisdictions already have this in their comp plan. We're a little bit behind on that. So that should probably be step 1 is updating your comprehensive plan, which is supposed to guide your capital improvement planning as well.
Yeah. So the phase 2 option, we were just thinking because of the numbers you see on there, and you just say it's $150,000 and another $100,000 in fiscal year 25 CIP, and you could decide which way you wanted to go. That was just a thought process, and we'll talk about options and ideas at the end. But that was one of the ideas that we talked about. Last area of the Climate Energy Action Plan is zero emissions vehicles and expanding the regional electric vehicle deployment. There is a clearinghouse with a very lengthy list of resources at MWCOG. They have a whole website associated with the Regional Electric Vehicle Deployment Clearinghouse. This is where the federal government has dumped in a lot of infrastructure money. The National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure money is in this area. This is why they are focusing on this area. Very interesting meeting with the COG in January was there are some community, and it was attended, I attended, and it was attended by pretty much every city and county government in this area. It was right before the auto show. And it was, they basically said there are cities that have a environmental green plan engineer hired on staff for these larger cities, Arlington and Alexandria, I think it was. They applied for grants last year. They have robust plans, and they applied for EV grants, and they got nothing. And so the first round that came out this last spring, we did not go for. We didn't have our ground game ready, but those entities that had great ground games and all the people and all the resources to it also didn't get grants for this. So what's happening, I think, is the state and the federal government are trying to figure out where can we focus and get the most for the money. Where do these chargers need to be? And you know what happens, of course. Corridors, interstates. You think of like the Sheets, okay, people go to get gas, they're gonna be creatures of habit, they're gonna wanna go to the gas station and plug in. They're thinking about the users and what our current behavioral patterns are and where they should go. So we can go talk till we're blue in the face and say we want them here, there, or the other place, but if it doesn't meet with that bigger framework that they're trying to do, which is 500,000 or 800,000 chargers, and I have a statistic in another slide, then it won't mesh with what, you know, the grants are. I'm not discouraging you. I want to pursue grants probably in the next round because now I know enough about it to kind of like maybe help work with Steve and Laszlo or whoever to, you know, get that grant off the ground. So I'm going to go high-speed round on EV because these next slides talk about these 6 areas. These are all electric vehicle incentive kind of items, these next 6 slides. And some of them are, you know, you got to take advantage of them individually. Some of them are for the government, tax write-offs and stuff like that. It's just a resource, so I'll go pretty quickly on these next couple of slides. The 6 overarching topics. Topic 1 is EV grants and funding. There is a government alternative fuel vehicle incentive. You can get a $10,000 grant if you're in an air quality non-attainment area and you buy a alternative fuel or electric vehicle. Virginia's NEVI, National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Planning. This is where the Infrastructure Investment Job Act and the $5 billion comes into play. Virginia got $2.5 billion, and they did $500 million in grants in the first round, and our peers around here didn't get grants. Where are they putting the money? I think they're still at the interstate and major corridor population center thinking mode. I don't think they've drilled down into the locality mode to be ready to hand out grants to localities. That was the information I got at the meeting in January. Here's the goal. They want to create a nationwide, these grants, these federal grants, wants to create a nationwide network of 500,000 electric vehicle chargers by 2030. Here's the catch, along major travel corridors like the interstate highway system. So when I read between the lines, in my experience, I think we're a little bit behind like the 8 ball or the, you know, because there's a bigger picture at play here. And so I don't want to be like, hey, yeah, let's go do this. We're going to get lots of money and build a lot of these charging stations. That's not what I'm hearing on the street right now. Second topic is incentives. You can get electric and alternative fuel school bus grants. EV, there's a EV rebate program working group that MWCOG is working on. There's an HOV lane exemption, as you know, for EVs, and there's exemptions from emissions testings. Everyone kind of already knows that stuff. EV laws and regulations, they are being relaxed to allow for EV conversions, zero-emission vehicle sales requirement, and low-emission vehicle standards. And there's a transportation electrification study. These are resources on COG's website. And here's an incentive, not an incentive, a tool that Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments has developed. It's a GIS tool. And what this tool does is it has a logarithm in it. And there's 3 different scenarios you can check on the box and ask it to look at a map and say, based upon the data, registrations, where EV vehicles are traveling, and 3 different kind of layers, where should these EV charging stations be located. They were very excited about the tool in January. I have not seen it advertised for production yet. They said they were very close to having this tool available. I want to have the opportunity to play with the tool. The 3 priority areas, the 3 buttons, you can only do 1 button at a time. You're going to either click, let's prioritize direct current fast chargers with high utilization. Why? That's the biggest, you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck using that layer. The next layer is chargers with an equity focus. You might have chargers within a less traveled area, but it's more equitable in spreading the EV charging infrastructure out because there's no EV chargers in the lower income areas. So this is another way to ask this tool. And the last way is fast chargers in multifamily housing. So depending upon your priority, you can see where this tool will steer you as far as locating EVs. I haven't used it. It's not out yet, but I intend to and want to take a look at it and bring it back to you. Here's just an example. This is a map, and it's hard to see, but it's really the same map 3 times, and they clicked 3 different scenarios, 1 scenario each of the 3 that I just described. The left-hand one is, that's the high utilization fast chargers. See, and this is, New Carrollton is at the center. I don't know where that is actually. That's
Maryland.
Into the orange line,
okay.
not too
So-
far from the Redskins Stadium.
Okay,
Route
great.
50.
So you can see that first one, hey, if you want to use high utilization fast chargers, the red circles. Hey, if you want to do the second category is chargers with equity focus around New Carrollton. See the down on the left, that's where you want to put them. Finally, if you want to do, in the third scenario, it shifts a little bit north, that's multifamily housing. So this is a really kind of an interesting tool that I think will be useful for us to take a look at once we get there. So this last area, we are going to be pursuing this, and I will be bringing maybe a couple of items back to you in the future. In this action area number 8, zero emissions vehicles, we are talking to, I'll give you a specific example, Blink. They are interested, we've talked to them, and they are interested in identifying where we might be able to offer a lease, a piece of dirt for them to put these in. Revenue sharing, no cost to the city. We are looking at that right now. We've said, what about downtown around this area? We talked about maybe a cluster off of parking spaces off of Naylor right by the tracks would be perfect. The community out there in the MWCOG, the cities and counties that have a little further than us and a lot more resource than us have been doing this, and they say stay away from curbside chargers. You have utility conflicts, you have tripping hazards, you have damage, you have sometimes people with no garages. Remember the garages and the parking thing? You have cables running across sidewalks. It's a nightmare in some of these areas. Yes, it's potential to do it, but it has to be very well planned and it has to be in specific areas. So our first phase, I would say cluster chargers, public spaces, and what the market will drive. And I'm hoping to get a proposal from Blink to maybe for you to consider in the near future. So that's a staff effort that's underway. So we are working on that. So I highlighted that as an effort. This is, I mentioned the EV locator tool data. We see some potential, and we would prioritize where the need is the greatest. That's how I would use the tool, but I would be more than happy to bring all types of data back to you for policy decision. Where we talk for installation of bank chargers, of course, Park Central, City Hall parking lot, theater complex, downtown garage, VRA surface parking lot, maybe even the community center. Those are our focus areas right now. I'm going to call the right now phase like phase 1, low-hanging fruit. That's what we would probably focus on. There are EV consulting companies that will come in and say you need them here, here, and here. And by the way, we'll broker the whole deal. We'll bring in the charger companies and we'll place them for you. So I am exploring that. I want to have the option of the direct manufacturer as well as the broker option, and I'm expecting something from them relatively soon as well. So we are moving that forward, and we'll bring something back when the time is right, when we actually have something that you can sink your teeth into and make a decision on. This is the last slide. So we have a couple of options, strategic options. You could move forward now with available funding and do a comp plan, fill in the green gap. You could do a study and say, hey, this is the green plan of the region. Take these 4 documents from MWCOG and merge them with our comp plan and give us some special priorities that fit with our city. Interview the city commission, the governing body, interview the citizens, and find out where they're most focused in and create a comp plan that's more robust in this area. Would 100,000 do that? It might. It probably would. Secondly, we could supplement. I talked earlier, we have 100,000 now. We could put another 100,000 and you could say, hey, go hire one of those companies that MWCOG has identified. If I was sitting in your seat, I'm not, it's a lot of money. I don't know. That's your call. I mean, I would certainly be happy to do whatever you guys are the policymakers. And there's, of course, other ideas that you could possibly do. As far as the EV infrastructure, we will continue to work with, the broker and the direct sale opportunity. And what they would do is come back for a lease. We want to lease 50 by 100 foot of grass next to City Hall. Sign the lease. We'll share in the revenue. We take all the risks. They might be able to do something like that, and that's something that is policy that would be brought back to you. You're not going to be, trust me, I've been through this before, you're not going to be surprised by something showing up on the street that you didn't know anything about. That's not happening. You all are going to provide the direction. I think there might be an opportunity to look for some EV charging infrastructure grants in the next round. I know enough now, based upon the research that I've done over the last couple of months, to maybe wordsmith a grant application in the next round. It's supposed to be coming out in the spring, so we're getting close to the spring. So I'm committing to you, as long as it's your direction, to work with city administration, the planning department, to develop some ideas to apply for a grant that may provide some money to do some bank chargers that the city would be able to take advantage of. And with that, I'm open for questions and have anything you want me to follow up on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is an excellent presentation. It was very comprehensive. How easy do you think it's going to be to get the grants that you referenced?
I think it's going to be a very heavy lift to convince a granting agency that's looking at such a high, big picture kind of thing to say, yeah, that's a great idea. But then again, we have a transit-oriented downtown development that when people come here, they're just impressed with what they see and what's going up. The garage is coming out of the ground. You got a downtown. You got mixed use. So,
Right.
and as the community, where do we where does our community fit on the scale of the socioeconomic of this greater area? Maybe there's an advantage there for us, you know? So
Okay.
Just
I'm
to add-
saying yes. I think it's worth the, few days it would
Right.
take to formulate a grant.
Right.
And if I do, I would come back and say, hey, we can do this. It's only a few days' work. We're going to apply for it.
Yeah, so
Thank
we
you.
have more of a success if we do the green plan, if we contract out the report, because then Merchant McIntyre can utilize that data to write a very competitive grant. So with all the grants we've been doing, the ones that are more successful are the ones where we have a lot of data and reports, existing reports from engineers, from others, that can go into a narrative for Merchant McIntyre to write our grant for us. So Merchant McIntyre is going to be the ones that are going to advise us how likely it is we'll get the grant, but they'll want to see what information we have before they craft the grant as well.
Okay.
But so having the green plan just
Yeah.
gives you a better opportunity to actually win some of these grants.
Okay, excellent, thank you. My other question is, just like there's many states that have a roadside assistance where they bring you a gallon of gas if you run out, how far along is the planning for EVs where roadside assistance comes and gives you a quick charge to get your vehicle to the next charging station? Have you heard anything about that?
I've heard nothing about that capability,
Okay. Okay,
So that's a great question, but
yeah.
I'll
thank
check,
you.
I'll check around.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, thank you. Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you for the information because
Yes.
I knew nothing. This is actually pretty interesting and educational. My questions have to do with infrastructure upgrades because as you were talking, I began thinking about that. And if I'm not mistaken, our wires and such here are probably a little bit on the older side. What type of upgrades would be needed by adding all of these different charging stations? And I got many questions underneath one question. Do we know what other jurisdictions have done as far as upgrades for their infrastructure? And how do we go about upgrading the infrastructure?
Sure. Those are great questions, and I know very little about it, but I do know one thing about it. Finding out whether or not you can do EV chargers or bank chargers in a specific area starts with a conversation with Novak, which involves a load study. What they need to know is the make, model, and the type of chargers you want to put in. Then they take their electric network engineer guys and come out and say, here's the network, here's the transmission line, and here's the capability and capacity that's there now. So we don't know if it can be done until the grid is studied. So those are very good questions. So, and that's actually the point where I got to talking to these companies, because when I was trying to figure it out with Novak, they gave me a contact and they said, these people that know the electrical infrastructure grid need to know what you're planning to do, and they can figure it out for you, and they can give you a aura. And I'll give you a perfect example. The garage, the VRE garage, it's being built for wiring and for 2 chargers on the city floor level in case we have EV fleet, and it can be upgraded to an additional 4 chargers without increasing the transformer size. Or actually, I'm sorry, the 2 is without. The 2 are coming, without a change. And if they want to put some on the roof, for the customers, or we want to put more, then it's a transformer upgrade. So the answer to your question is, you have to kind of like plan where you want and what you want, and then they can tell you if it's going to be compatible or doable or not. And there, in some cases, it's no, but in some cases, it'll. So I think, and that'll be part of the bigger rollout on the main corridors, because something where I live now in Leesburg, we're going nuts over there about these power lines that are coming. Everyone's up in arms about the data centers and the power lines in my community. They're just like, oh my God, we're going to be surrounded by EMF. And so that's a good question.
But also, again, that's something we'd want to look at the study. So, example, the flooding. Remember the flooding question we had? We had the engineers actually evaluate, well, what's our capacity for capturing water and channeling it through, right? Those are contracted questions. Those are very technical questions that we don't have the scope to answer that you'd want to contract out.
I got a follow-up
Yes,
question.
ma'am.
And you probably don't have the answer to this, but as you were talking, this came other questions, and this had to do with safety. Do we need special equipment as we're adding these type of charging stations in there? Do we need special fire equipment? Do we need other type of special equipment? Are there instances of, just like those lithium batteries, I think the lithium batteries,
Yeah.
the explosions like that, do we have that same sort of issue with the charging stations?
Yeah, people do have concerns about that. My daughter's a firefighter in Loudoun County, so she has concerns about it. I mean, honestly, she says, keep it away from other vehicles and let it burn, because we don't have enough water to put that fire out, was her words. But, of course, she's biased. She's a firefighter, she knows how it works. I don't know how it works. So to answer your question, there's a risk in everything.
Yeah.
That's why we were thinking if you wanted to put something around this area, keep it away from the building and keep it in the corner. And
To minimize, if God forbid
Yeah.
something happens, minimize the damage.
but then when the EV people walk around the parking lot with you, they go, "Oh, okay, it's here," and here is like by the where the service line comes in on the front side of City Hall, which is by the handicap spaces, which is not, or on the alleyway, and it's, by the road, but it's closer to the building. We could probably put some parallel parking here and put some here, and it's because it's right next to where the service comes. But that's not ideal, So there's a lot of different options and considerations for where to place them.
Okay. I just figured those were some questions as we're going
Yeah.
through it. Thank you. That's all I've got.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
I'm going to vote no for this, and there's a specific reason why, and there's good aspects of this plan. The one piece and the priority is invest in infrastructure that increases transit, carpooling, non-motorized travel. And I was part of COG when they started developing this initially. I was the board member for 3 years. This has been a pattern that's been planned here in this region for about the last 40 years. We've built rail here. Metro's built. We haven't really built highways. We're the only major city in the United States that has no highway north to south, east to west. And what we have now is the worst traffic in the nation, wait time-wise. So I think that's a precedent itself to working class communities, and it oppresses people from being able to move. And then I also believe that the charging station, why doesn't the market dictate that? The market should come in. I don't think the government should be involved in subsidizing that issue. It should be market driven. So that's my concern with it. A lot of the aspects are, there's a lot of good things in this plan, so that's the reason I'm opposed to it. But thank you for the presentation.
Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Okay. Do you have a question? Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll just make a comment. Thank you for the presentation. I know that we are a drop in the bucket when it comes to the region, but I also think it's important for us to set an example. And I really like the EV charging ideas. I think we should look into them. I also think that setting up our comprehensive plan to reflect our green gap is a good idea. And one thing that wasn't mentioned that I would like to see is our new transportation building, if that comes to fruition with the schools, having that EV infrastructure so that the schools could go electric with their buses. I think those are good goals that we can do to kind of make our small difference in the region.
Sure.
And again, that would need to be covered in the plan as part of the kind of the CIP and pros and cons analysis done with that, and hopefully some revenue, or expenditure forecasts as well for EV fleet.
Okay. Councilmember Moore?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to join my comments with our Vice Mayor. I think she's 100% right. I think even though we're a small percentage of our greenhouse gases, we have a moral imperative for our grandkids and our kids here in this community to do something about climate change. Everyone should be contributing. I think closing our gap in our comprehensive plan to include green things should, to me, is a low-hanging fruit, and it's an excellent suggestion as a first step, a first phase in us going forward. Hopefully, if we get more money, we can do a comprehensive plan that's a standalone, but we have to do that. And I think starting with a comprehensive plan makes sense. EV stations, it's the way of the future. I believe California voted in 2035, all cars are to be electric. And as California goes, so does the nation. And so we have to be out front and think about these things before it's too late. I'm glad that we have some charging stations in our unbuilt garage. To me, that's a low-hanging fruit, and it should definitely happen in that garage, as well as a fleet maintenance, as our vice mayor has mentioned. The fact that there's grants out there for buses, many schools are going to electric buses as a means of transportation. So excellent, it's exciting. I'm glad we're moving forward as a city with our green plan, even though it may be a little scaled down at first, but at least we're headed in the right positive direction. So
If I could just add a comment too, we can do both in one contract, but break it down in phase 1, phase 2
that's excellent.
across fiscal years, right? And so start with phase 1 first with the budget we have, and as part of the next CIP, you can add the remaining funds, so we can go out there and get proposals to do a 2-phase project of a comp plan amendment first, specifically for the environmental chapter, and then the actual action plan as phase 2, all in one contract, but just kind of sequence that way, and to give us time then to add the additional funding based off the, what we get back from the contractor in FY25.
I think that's an excellent approach. Great job. Yeah. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you for the presentation.
Yes, sir.
I think the school bus, electrifying that is a great idea, because they are on the roads Monday through Friday, every single day. And reducing that emissions could be a huge climate saving efforts.
Yeah.
So I think focusing on public transportation from the schools and our city public transportation, if that's emergency vehicles or public works, because those are the vehicles that are going out. Second, is there any data that could kind of tell us how many electric vehicles been purchased in our region?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I did dig into that data. The industry collects that data. Yeah, unfortunately, it's usually a couple years old. When you look at this region and you look at like the city of Alexandria, or you look at Arlington, and you see, adoption rates like in the double digits, and we're like 1 or 2% or less. And this is going back to like 21 data. I can try and get some new data, but the registrations in this region, in the MWCOG region for our city, are significantly lower than in our surrounding neighborhoods or communities. Right. FYI.
Yeah, I mean, I think
would you like to see that data? I'll try and see if I can.
I mean, I would. The only reason is when we get further into our discussions is because, supply and demand, right? So if there is a demand for these electric vehicles and more of our communities buying them, then there's a need for these electric stations.
Yeah.
That's phase 1.
Yes, sir.
But if the price is still up at $200,000 for a Tesla, I don't see every home being able to buy a Tesla, right?
Yes, sir.
So until those prices come down, which is why the supply-demand economics comes in play,
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's when the EV station for the public will be beneficial, right? At the end of the day, we don't want to spend all this money on infrastructure, safety, and all that when our community doesn't have, the electric vehicles to go charge them.
Okay.
So that was my only concern, but I mean, the future is coming, 2035, like you said. I mean, we need to be prepared, but something to consider.
So I'm sorry. I think you've been clear about addressing the green gap study piece, and I would talk to these companies and say, hey, we know this is your bailiwick, but we also have a comp plan that needs addressing, and I can have those conversations and bring something back to you.
Yeah, for this one, as promised, we'll bring back a draft of our solicitation first, so it hits all the points that you guys want before we send it out there, breaking it down into 2 phases. Okay, but I want to get all your inputs as promised last budget before we issue this out.
Okay. I do have a second part. So to, I guess, the greenhouse plan altogether, I mean, there's small steps we as a city can take, like, going paperless, right? Using our technology to go paperless, that's a small step, but it reduces, benefits the environment, right? Preserving green spaces. As a body here, we could, have dedicated areas where we make gardens and urban gardens and community impacts, but small steps like that could
Yeah.
make a big impact on the green plan itself. It doesn't need to be EV chargers or this, right? Bike lanes, that's huge. Making walkable communities, right? So stuff like that, I mean, is doable and reachable, right, in the next couple of years as a city for us.
And we're doing 2 out of the 3 that you mentioned.
Right,
So
and we are.
we have the most
Exactly.
parks land in, compared to any jurisdiction in Northern Virginia as a percentage of population and land. So we're already there,
Right.
right? So the remaining pieces that I'm still proposing for developing to get the downtown going, please don't stop those, because we already have the most green space already. So just to add that point. And then we are starting to leverage more technology for payments, for other things, but I will say that in our community, I think a lot of people still, like or prefer to use paper. They still come in, pay in cash. So it's going to be, like you said, demand and supply. So we are trying to maximize the use of technology, but we have to recognize that there's a significant chunk of our residents that we're still going to utilize the paper and other things as well.
Right.
But the bike lanes, that's where we're a little bit behind, but that's where the active transportation plan is addressing that, and implementing that is going to be addressing.
Exactly, that'll be big too. And then the last piece of that was like solar farms. I don't know if you have the space for it, but that's something we could look at too. And our buildings can be running on renewable energy basically if we have a big enough solar farm.
Yeah,
So
great idea.
that's all I have.
That's it?
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much. That was
You're welcome.
a terrific presentation. Thank you. Okay, moving on to consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of approval of the corrected minutes of February 20th, 2024, approval of Robert Clark as the city's new fire marshal effective March 5th, 2024, approval of and authorization for the city manager to sign the necessary contractual documents for the replacement of the emergency apparatus bay doors at the fire station for an amount not to exceed $140,000 as presented and subject to final city attorney review, and authorization for the city manager and the chief of police to sign the PSAP tax revenue to provide a salary and benefit adjustment to emergency communications specialists as presented. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
And Mayor, can I just add one point for the PSAP?
Yes.
I made an error in the agenda, so we already actually got a separate grant for the bonuses, so we have even more money in PSAP revenue to cover these salaries, so we have a lot more still.
Oh, that's good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Next is a discussion to revisit the 360 agreement, and I want to thank everyone for being willing to take up this discussion again. Do we have a motion to revisit the 360?
So moved.
Second.
Well, wait, we have to state the motion.
Yeah, I'll move to reconsider the motion to approve and authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with One Digital for a 360 performance review of the 3 appointed officers for an amount not to exceed $6,500, which was presented and voted on at the February 20 regular meeting of the governing body.
Okay. Oh, do we have a second?
Your motion was to do
No.
what? I'm sorry.
Are we discussing first before we take a
We're
vote?
reconsidering it,
Well,
Oh.
so now we can discuss it.
we have to.
But that's not what, I
motion.
thought, no, I mean, the motion is kind of
Yeah, the
not
motion-
clear.
Yeah, it's not clear.
It's,
It's from Dean.
I know,
It's
it
from
sounds
the-
like we're taking a vote on moving forward with 360.
No, the
we are
motion
taking a
is to
vote to
reconsider the motion.
Okay.
To revisit it.
Mm.
Okay. Did we get a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Can I call for a roll call vote, please?
I beg your pardon?
I'd like to see a roll call vote. Who's voting for
Oh,
this?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. We'll raise our hands. That's probably the easiest way to
That'll
go.
work.
All in,
Mayor, if I could clarify, it seemed like there's some confusion about what you guys are voting on. I just want everyone to understand the motion to reconsider. If it's approved, takes you back to right before you voted on it at the last meeting. So it will no longer be approved. So you're gonna have another motion after that to approve it, if that's what you wanna do.
or.
I just wanna make sure everyone understands that.
Okay. Okay, so if we decide to go forward with the 360, there is a motion to go forward with that. If we.
Yes.
Okay, so there would be no need to rescind or reject Does that make sense?
Yeah, so the motion to reconsider it's as if the previous vote didn't occur.
Okay,
And then, so you will have to vote again if you do decide you want to go forward with 360. So you're going to have another
Okay.
vote after this.
okay,
If this motion gets approved. So I just want to clarify that.
okay. No need to rescind vote. Okay, thank you. Okay, all those.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
is there a discussion on the motion?
Discussion.
Go ahead. Do you have discussion?
Well, what I'm asking is, well, yes, I do.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, yeah, sure. Now, we're about to take a vote to reconsider a motion that this body had adopted several months ago to do an evaluation of the three people that we're responsible for hiring. That is the city manager, the city clerk, and the city attorney. Since I've been on this council in this dais, we have never evaluated our city manager, our city clerk, or our city attorney. And I just think that that is an abdication of our responsibility and duties as elected officials. We only hire 3 people in this whole city, and we have yet to evaluate them. And now we voted to have an evaluation process, and we're now about to undo that. Think about that. No evaluation of the 3 people that we on this dais are responsible for hiring. I've worked for many years in the government. Housing Authority was evaluated every year at my job. I believe you, as our residents and our citizens and those here in this room today, have been evaluated by your jobs, most times on an annual basis. But for some reason, this council, this governing body, feels it not necessary to evaluate the 3 individuals. At least they haven't done it in the 4 years that I've been on this dais. That is the city manager, the city attorney, and the city clerk. And I just don't understand that.
No one is.
Wait a minute, can I finish, please?
Yes.
It's not good government. It's not good government. We should be evaluating the individuals that we are responsible for hiring in this city. It's as simple as that. And it disappoints me that we're having this vote to reconsider now at this time. I'm going to lose the votes. I can count votes. I've been on a council for many years. I'm going to lose this one. But I still have got to make the statement that it's wrong. And we're abdicating our responsibilities as elected officials of this city. It's wrong. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Okay, and no one is saying that we oppose evaluation. No one is saying that there's not going to be an evaluation. The issue is the cost of the 360. It's the type of evaluation and the cost of it. We are paying for 3 evaluations, and now we are only getting 2. Change in scope, in my mind, should translate to a change in cost. So we're getting 2/3 of the work product, but we're paying for 3/3. That's the issue. The issue is not that we're never going to evaluate our employees. That's not it. So.
To date, we have not.
Yeah, well, and we've been remiss not to do that, but things have been very, very hectic. We've been on a conveyor belt for the last several years. So, yeah.
May I?
Yes.
I brought up the motion, so I just want to clarify. I am 100% for evaluating our employees. I am 100% for evaluating them starting this year. I just think with the light of losing one, I don't think putting money into that evaluation is necessary. I would also like to revisit the way that we're going to do this 360. I think a 360 is a fantastic idea, but I think it's been a bit rushed. So I would love to actually put some thought into it over the next year, see if we could do this internally, create the questions ourselves in tandem with HR, and push it out ourselves and save the cost. I just want to discuss it. I am in no way saying that they should not be evaluated.
Okay. Does anyone have any?
Down here.
Yes, ma'am.
So I would like to make the statement. I think it was about 2 years ago, I requested for our city council, I actually brought it for consideration for the city council for us to do a review. Like Mr. Moore, I've worked a long time. I've always been reviewed, even my first jobs out of college when I was a receptionist. So, but we decided not to go down that route. I will tell you, based on my experience and my education, for us to do a review is probably not, or for us to actually handle the review and not have an outside party do a review is, once again, it's not the best use of, it's probably not the right path to go, because we have to make sure if we're gonna do a review, especially a 360 review, you have to make sure that whatever information is provided is kept anonymous. And unfortunately, with the different options that we've looked at, with the exception of the 360 review that we were going to proceed with, that was the only option that would give that anonymity. I can tell you, I've used SurveyMonkey. I've used it for my dissertation. It collects who gives the responses. So that's why you have to really think. We actually really have to put our thought to what we're going to use, and using an outside party who has an HR background, who has the certifications in HR. Even though it does cost money, it may hurt, it may cost money at first, but long-term, it will help.
Any other? Go ahead.
I voted on this as a waste of resources, a waste of money. We have surveyed every jurisdiction in Northern Virginia and Maryland who's done this. I work for Arlington County, I worked for government 20 years. They don't do it there. It's an at-will state. AAA bond rate Arlington, AAA bond rate Alexander City, Montgomery County, Howard County, Loudoun, Vienna. None of them do it. I was in Franklin, Martinsville, and Henry County. They don't do it. I was in Norfolk City. They don't do it. We're going to spend up to $2,500 on the city clerk who's been here 52 years for the first time to review. And we're going to spend another $2,500, up to $2,500 to review the city attorney. It's a waste of resources. The next presentation is a budget. We have the highest tax rate in the Commonwealth of Virginia of 85 counties, 38 cities. It's this type of management, why we have this type of, the highest taxes. It's this. It's a waste of resources. If you want to do a review, do an internal review. You can do it. It's been done. Some of the other jurisdictions do it. I work for government. I worked in 7 departments in the government I work for now. We don't even do it for the directors because they're at will, because if something is incorrect, you can just terminate them, because it gives the ability to remove liability. When you have something written down, it gives liability. And we've had to remove employees here before. I'm not going to name them. 3 employees on my previous term, and we had to settle with them just not to go to litigation. But if we were at will, we wouldn't have to settle. It's your tax money being wasted on resources that we don't need to waste for. So that's my position.
I just want to say that Laszlo has been reviewed twice. His last review, it was an internally created review mechanism that the previous governing body decided upon, and his last review was just prior to your coming on to the governing body. Miriam and Hector were a part of that and helped to create the questions that were asked. So it's not true that he has not been.
No, I said since I've been on the council. I said since I've
you've
been on the
okay,
council.
okay, and I wanted to point out, I didn't want anyone to think that there has been no review, because there have been 2 reviews. And I continually go back to, we voted to have a not to exceed cost of $6,500 for the 360. I can't see, it's not worth that. We're paying 3/3 of the cost, the entire cost for 2/3 of the product. That's why. That's my hang up. You know, there's no guarantees for this. So does anyone else want to say anything before we take the vote?
I'll say one comment. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm for the evaluation as well, but the way we evaluate, I think that's where our disagreement is coming from. With that said, I've already opposed the 360 review. With that said, I think it's unfair to bring it up when it has already been voted on and approved by 5 of the other members. So I think we just need to honor that vote. But if you guys want to discuss that, that's up to the body. But if we do move forward, then I think it's our job to come up with the
Yes.
360, the cost, and we have to do everything in our power to come up with cost out benefit, the two evaluations.
You mean to craft the questions to be on the evaluation?
Well, also with the pricing, that's your concern, that if we do move forward, then we have to figure out the pricing with the vendor.
I forwarded the email to you,
Yeah, so.
and she said it would be negligible. A negligible difference.
Okay,
Because that was my specific
Right.
question to the vendor.
yeah.
Yeah, so, I just can't support spending that much money and getting 2/3 of what we're actually paying for.
Well, can they save that up for when we have a new city manager? Can they save that evaluation when we have a new city manager?
Maybe
a
like
credit?
6 months, or like at a certain time
Yeah.
after the person's been in
So we pay
position, yeah.
we pay for the 3, and then when we hire the new city manager, they could incorporate that evaluation at that time.
I would not guarantee that they would say yes. That's a question that we would have to ask
Right,
them.
so that'll be, I guess, a follow-up email, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But we're voting tonight. We don't have that information to vote. We don't have an answer to that question.
Right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay, are we ready to vote?
Well, hold on, I have a question for Dean.
Yeah.
Dean,
Dean?
Yes.
if we wanted to, let's say, for example, we wanted to go find that additional information, just that Hasib had recommended, and we wanted to go find that information before we make a final decision, how would we go about that?
Okay, so just to remind you, the motion to reconsider, it just means you're gonna vote again on it. So if you did move to reconsider, and then you brought it back, you bring it back to you to discuss whether you ought to approve the 360 agreement, you could then ask that that information be brought back to you. That's if you're gonna use the motion to reconsider, because it's a one-off, you can only do it tonight. There is the ability to rescind the agreement after this, but that's, a little bit adversarial, I would say, to the company. So if you want the information before you finalize the agreement for 360, you rescind it tonight and then table the motion until the next meeting for the vote on the actual 360 agreement. If that makes sense.
So we would have to go through them, we'd have to vote on the motion that's on the table right now.
Right?
And if we say yes, continue, let's see, if the motion fails, then we'd have to make a second motion?
Now, if the motion to reconsider fails, the agreement is moving forward.
Okay.
So you're going forward with the agreement. If the motion to reconsider succeeds, that just means that you're going to bring back you have to bring it back for another vote before the agreement can be signed. And then you could stipulate that you wanted to have that information from the mayor before it was brought back again.
Right. So I think what Dean is saying is that, okay, if we reconsider the discussion, right, then that 360 evaluation is up for another vote on a later date. So I'm asking for
Correct.
the people that voted for the evaluation, are you guys willing to wait for the information?
No.
I am.
Yeah. So, I mean, then it all depends on, if the motion
What-
fails today, then we move
Why
forward.
can't
What
6 months?
exactly is the information that we want?
They were requesting that if we get a credit for the third evaluation for a later date.
I don't think that's going to work in our favor. I'm fairly certain from the communications I've had with the company, that they're not going to do that.
Ms. Mayor, can I ask a question?
Yes.
Why can't this be brought up later on? We have elections this year, we may have new city council people, we have a new mayor possibly coming, so we'll have a new mayor coming. Why can't this be brought at that time so we can get their input?
What?
What's wrong with that?
Leave that one alone. I'm gonna wait for that one.
What? No, say it.
You'll get it in closed session.
No, we don't have closed session.
I'm sorry.
Let's let the public, let's let the
Can you
public
speak-
hear.
Well, it's the same argument that Mr. McConnell used when he denied Obama a seat on the Supreme Court.
This is not
It's
that.
the exact
This is
same
not
thing.
that. This is a
He
review.
kept
This is a
him from
review.
doing
This is
it,
not that. That's
and
not
you're
that.
trying to do the same thing.
This is not that. This is a review.
Mr. Carrera, Yes, it is. It's the exact
You
same
have the
thing.
majority there. It was-
Why would you wait until after the
I have a
election?
question.
What does this have to do with an election?
Yep.
Why did you
Oh,
bring
it has
politics
plenty of
into
election.
this?
I think the people should
Why
know we're
did
gonna
you
spend
bring politics into
2,500.
this? We're
Spend
talking about the dais here.
to
Why would you
employ
bring
52 years. I think we should. I think that's what it has to do with
2,500?
the
We spent
election.
that on fireworks.
Oh, but they should know.
We
The
spent
public
that
should
on
know.
fireworks.
And we shouldn't do it in closed
We
session.
should
do it
straight
right
out
here. Right here.
evaluation.
Let the people know.
Stop
We
it.
spent that on fireworks.
We should let the people
One
know we're
person.
here.
And you voted for it.
One
I'm a
person
fireworks
at a
Okay.
time.
I know what produces waste.
Okay.
It's not the same thing. It's two
Okay,
different things.
Of course it's not.
It's two different things.
It's not the same thing when you say it's not the same thing.
So fireworks and
If
review are the
you
same
say
thing?
it's not. I'm
That's the
talking
same thing?
about wasteful spending.
So you're-
Evaluation is very important. It's critically important.
So wasteful spending is subjective.
It's not
subjective.
wasteful spending.
It's subjective.
It's not subjective.
It's subjective.
A 360 is
So your opinion
scientific.
of something is different than the
That's
person's
because you've
opinion.
never performed an evaluation. Ask the person sitting next to you who's done them.
I'm actually,
Ask the person
I
who's
don't know,
done
maybe
the
you don't know my
next
title.
All right,
I'm a
let's,
business- I'm a
let's
senior
squash this,
business
guys.
analyst in
Let's move
Arlington.
on
Maybe you
for
don't
the
know. Maybe you
motion.
don't know that. But go around the counties around the Commonwealth of Virginia and ask them what they do that. Don't bring up California, because this isn't California. This isn't
I
here.
wasn't bringing up California.
You said earlier California is the way this country goes. The country
We were
doesn't want to go
talking
the way
about-
California
We were
goes.
talking about electrifying
Everybody's
the
leaving
vehicles.
California.
We were talking about electrifying vehicles.
All right, let's move forward, guys, let's move forward.
Right.
Okay.
All right.
Any
No.
comments or questions? Okay. Okay. So, okay, let's take a vote. Let's raise our hands. All those in favor of the motion to reconsider, raise your hand. So now, Dean, explain, a yes vote does what versus a no vote?
A yes vote means, it basically means you didn't take the vote before. It essentially means you didn't take the vote before. So you have to bring it back to the governing body for a vote before
Okay.
you would have the authority to sign the agreement.
Okay,
A
so.
no vote on the motion to reconsider means that the previous vote stands and we move forward with the 360s with the agreement that was approved 2 weeks ago.
Okay, so a yes vote takes us back in time previous to February 20th. A no vote means that the decision of the 20th stands.
Correct.
Okay, okay. All those in favor of reconsideration, raise your hand. Okay. Okay, that's 3. I think Lena will be able to get that off the video. And all those opposed? Okay, okay, thank you all. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Yes,
can we go back to the agency and ask them the question that?
absolutely. Send me the questions. Email
Okay.
me the specific questions that you want answered.
Well, I think she has a specific question about a credit if we don't
That-
use
right,
the
that was to
third.
see-
It's
I'm
one
gonna-
question.
Yeah,
Right, that's to
that was
see-
his question.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll give
But
credit
email
to
me the
see.
specific question. I want it in writing, okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I want it in writing if anybody has any questions, okay?
Mayor, can I point something out? I think the cost, that what she had said was that the cost to prepare the 360 was gonna be the same. There might be some savings, if there was only 2 versus 3, but it would still be using the hourly rate. She said she couldn't predict
Yeah.
what the reduction would be. But if there's a change in scope of the questions, then that would obviously reduce the overall time or increase, whatever, but it would change the overall time to prepare the questions. And then running the actual 360 is probably not going to save a whole lot, because I think they would probably be sending them out to the same people. So we've been getting that back. Now, maybe going through them and parsing through them and coming up with what everything was said, we'd save some money there for just 2 instead of 3. But if I believe she said that it was going to cost the same to kind of prepare it, or close to it, to prepare them nonetheless.
Yeah, she said the cost difference would be negligible. The exact word that she used was negligible.
Right, and so the question about whether or not there's a credit that we're going to get, I don't think there's going to be a credit, because it's the cost of preparing everything is going to be what it is. It's not going to be, well, there's the city manager piece over here, let's not do that, and we'll save all this money. That's not the case. They're only going to charge us for the time they actually spend doing it.
That's good. So it's just hourly, they're billed hourly then, so it's less time,
Yeah.
less money. right?
Well, and yes, and I understand what you're saying, Dean, but if there are questions from the governing body, I am legitimately obliged to send those questions to the consultant.
Oh, I understand that. I'm not saying don't do that. I was just trying to explain what I understood she was saying in her email.
Right, right. Well, we could trim back the number of people beyond the city as a way to.
We can take a look, we can look
Yeah.
at the requirements
We
again
can
and,
omit, you
Right.
know, because I know we had quite a list of people.
Right.
Outside of the formal city people. So
Yeah.
we could trim back regarding that. Okay. Dean, do you have any more comments?
No, I don't have any comments.
Okay, okay. If you do have questions, please send them to me. I want to see them in writing. Okay, moving on to 10B. 10B is budget discussion.
Good evening again, Mayor and members of the governing body. In front of you, you have a sheet that looks like this. This is the updated priorities that was uploaded to the website over the weekend. Please let me know if there's any other edits you want me to do real time. If we can mirror this, please. There we go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah, if there's any edits, please let me know, and if there's none, you can go ahead and rank directly from this and send it
Okay.
back to me.
I just wanted to clarify my comments on hub zones. I'm fine with hub zones. I think they're great. My concern was that we do not offer them free rent or free anything as an attraction for them to come to the city. It's really difficult to know just how much our residents benefit from a hub zone. And the reason I say that is, according to the Small Business Association, Small Business Administration website, 35% of the company's employees must reside in the hub zone. Now, they also define employees as individuals employed on a full-time, part-time, or other basis, so long as the individual works a minimum of 40 hours per month. Now, 40 hours per month is not a great deal of time, so hypothetically, there could be a situation where Manassas Park residents work the very minimum, and the non-Manassas Park residents work the maximum as full-timers. So it's really difficult to know how much benefit is actually provided to our residents. That was the reason that I was not in favor of the free rent or free anything to draw them to the city. I just wanted to make that clarification.
yeah. May I say something?
Yes,
Why I put Hub Zone on here is not for that reason.
okay,
To use a Hub Zone as an incubator for businesses.
okay.
And I can tell you, I've actually been hired back when I was a contractor.
Mhm.
Companies hired me because of my ability to do stuff,
Yeah.
but also because of my address, because that now allowed them to meet that qualification. So the hub, and I know that in DC, certain, I forget what you call it, but where you can rent office space, like the shared workplaces,
Uh-huh.
specifically resided or set up business in hub zones, so that could serve as an incubator for small businesses that want to be a hub zone.
Okay,
So there's more to a hub zone than just free business, free rent. It's someone wants to start a business out of their house. It's just two people, a husband and a wife. They're living in the hub zone part of Manassas Park. Then that makes them qualified to become a hub zone.
yeah.
As a resident living in Manassas Park, that also gives you an advantage to other candidates because you live in a hub zone.
Well, and I brought it up because of SSI that occupies the stone house over at Costello. They came in and they were offered free rent. They had free rent for a couple of years. And then finally that was rescinded. And even the city paid to put on a wooden ramp onto that building. The city paid for that. So that's the type of thing that I don't think that we should do. Offer them the free stuff,
Yeah.
you know.
Maybe I can
That's
get
all.
clarification. Also, what specifically could the city do to encourage business growth? On
You can
that
use
side?
just simple things, just reaching out to the Hub Zone, the Association of Hub Zone Businesses.
Mhm.
They do have conferences, and just let them know that Manassas Park exists.
Okay. And so that would be to help, I guess, home-based businesses?
Home-based businesses, also already existing Hub Zones, so that they, if they see.
But are you doing this for revenue purposes or just more to help out our residents?
A little
Because
bit of
revenues
both.
is gonna be is gonna be
A
minimal to nothing.
little
If,
bit-
I get it, if it's a benefit
right.
to residents, then that's wonderful.
It's a
but-
seed, it's basically, I wanted to serve as a seed program.
I got it. I just want to clarify
Yeah.
with everyone, this isn't a revenue
No.
generator. It's more of a service, and that's good. You know, it's a service more to residents.
It's,
So,
you know, it's a business generation, long-term, not short-term.
Yeah, okay.
And it doesn't really cost a lot for us, other than just reaching out to Hub Zone organizations, reaching out to Hub Zone companies that already exist, to let them know that we have residents here in the Hub Zone area that, you know, if they see somebody with that address, you know, they, maybe
Yeah.
it sticks in their mind, gives them a little bit of consideration.
Yeah, so it won't be handled in any way like SSI was handled.
No, I think
Okay.
what Councilmember Hampton's saying is that home-based businesses can now benefit from this. So
Yeah.
it's a good service for our residents. But if, the challenge though is even for scaling up, where do they scale up to in our city? That's what I'm saying. This isn't a revenue generator, a significant one for our city. I think Route 28 has some potential in the future, but office development right now, good luck. It's just, the office market's dead right now. So I just wanted to make everyone clear that this is a great service for residents. It's not a game changer when it comes to revenue, so.
so I mean, I don't know much about hub zones, but I thought my understanding is that the hub zones are for like economically distressed business areas, right?
Yeah.
So how would like a residential zone zoning be qualifying?
It's,
Because-
yeah, sorry, you want?
So if you take a look at the Hub Zone map,
Yeah.
it's pretty much the west side. It goes from Route 28.
Oh, so we're on the map.
Mhm,
Oh.
we are.
Okay.
It's
We have
census
been.
designated track.
Right.
Yeah,
Right, and we have been for more than 5 years, probably about a decade.
yeah, a lot longer, yeah.
Yeah.
I know when you first came in, Suhas, our previous vice mayor, brought this to your attention. He did some research, and we just continue to have the same occupant, the same business.
Well,
It's been
for
very
SSI,
difficult.
yeah, and again, if they were to scale up, they would leave our city. That's just what's
I know-
happened with
I
other
know.
businesses
What I'm
as
saying is
well.
I know you've worked on this before and tried to bring business.
Yeah,
It's
again,
been
I
difficult.
don't pursue it as an economic development director. I think it's a good service for our residents, but my task, especially 7 years ago when I was hired, was to fix the city's finances and to grow revenue so we can reduce the tax rates. That's what I've been laser focused on. This is a great additional service, I think, to our residents. It helps them out, but it's not the money-making game changer.
So they
that
get
we're looking for.
tax incentive? Is that what it is?
Well, not
I
so
think
much
it's
tax.
SBA loans, right?
Right, SBA loans, certain types of government contracts that are set aside for Hub
Mhm.
Zones.
I see.
It also makes our residents, what's the word I want to use? Yeah, more competitive in the market. So if you own a Hub Zone, you're required to hire so many residents that live in a qualified Hub Zone. So let's say you've got candidate A, and they live in Manassas Park. You got candidate B. They both have the exact same skill set, and they're going for a job for a Hub Zone. Chances are the Manassas Park resident would probably be the pick because of where they live, so that they get that credit for a Hub Zone.
Okay.
And just for resident awareness too, I don't want to minimize the, it's all helpful, but B-Poll, business, personal and occupant license is very small, the rate is very low. So even some of these big businesses that I'm talking to, when I'm doing the math on how much revenue they generate, the B-Poll amount is negligent. It's real estate tax, it's personal property tax, especially if you're talking about computers, meals tax, sales tax. That's what generates a lot of the revenue for cities. Income tax is different, of course. That's going to be the state. You're definitely benefiting the state from that perspective.
All right. So are we ranking these today, or?
Well, you can. The purpose of tonight was there any additional changes? If there isn't, then go ahead and rank, or I can use the digital format. I can re-email it to you as well, but it'd be ready for ranking at this point. The mayor came back with a lot of good recommendations for consolidation. Are there any other things you guys want to consolidate or edit on this before it gets ranked?
We'll just go ahead and rank.
All right, cool. Thank you very much.
When would you like it by?
I think no later than the 20th would be good, because that's when I get the assessment data back. So that's when I really, around that week of the 20th is when I really start getting into the budget. So I want to know kind of what the priorities are.
So email you any changes?
Sure.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or email the rankings by the 20th.
Yeah, the rankings. Yeah, my apologies. Yeah.
Okay. Okey dokey. Okay. Moving on to 11A. 11A is resolution of support for FY25 congressionally directed spending request. Welcome, Calvin.
Good evening, Mayor Rischel, Vice Mayor Mensing, members of council, residents, staff, and guests. I'm Calvin Odell, the Director of Community Development. Before you tonight is an item of business, a resolution of support for some congressionally directed spending for FY25. We had our complete streets plan put together for the Park Central area, and there are certain unfunded aspects of that plan that we would like to facilitate in FY25. There are not many grant opportunities through VDOT or our regional partners that would make the funding available so quickly, but this congressionally directed spending opportunity could get us these sidewalk pieces that are missing from Euclid down to Bank Street. Just east of the tracks, there's sidewalk not on either side up to the tracks. And then also a major complaint from the businesses and residents around this Park Central area is the speed of vehicles and the pedestrian safety in the area. And there are also some enhancements, pedestrian safety enhancements and some traffic calming measures, just some pavement markings that we would like to achieve with this congressionally directed spending. Merchant McIntyre has been working with staff to put the request together. It's just around $1.5 million. So all we're asking for is a resolution of support to see if we can get this congressionally directed spending or not.
Okay. Comments or questions? Comments or questions?
Thank you for getting that.
Okay. Thank you, Calvin. The recommended staff motion is that the governing body adopt a resolution in support of the fiscal year 2025 congressionally directed spending request for Park Central complete streets improvements as presented.
Second.
Did we get a second?
I was a
Yes,
second.
he said it first, and then Mike said it second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Messing,
First.
yes,
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, amendment to Phase 2 of the downtown development to allow for steakhouse. Be sure to pull your microphone down when you talk.
Okay, good evening, members of the governing body and residents. Just as a reminder, when we talk about Phase 2 of the downtown, we're talking about the area right behind Park 170, the apartments that are directly across the street from City Hall. The city owned about 8 acres in 2012, sold that to EMSI to construct 2 residential buildings and 2 commercial office buildings. They completed half of the development by 2019. So the first apartment building, the Artena Apartments, the 7-story apartment building, and then 1 office, which is the 2-story office that houses the DSS and the daycare below. So that was completed in around 2019. At that time, they wanted to amend the agreement. The second residential building was supposed to be assisted living facility. They wanted to do a second apartment to get kind of the economies of scale from the residential. I recommended that you approve that, but with a couple changes. If they wanted that, then they need to give us 2 things. And the first thing they did was, okay, we'll also put a restaurant in another part of the city to help with the tax generation. They had to deal with the All-American Steakhouse. They still do a relationship with them. And also to tie the residential piece to the 2 commercials so that they couldn't get a building permit for the residential until they got it for the commercial and the restaurant, and they wouldn't get a certificate of occupancy for the residential until they got it for the office and the restaurant. So it was our attempts a few years ago to start changing development dynamics by making sure that the commercial pieces arrive with the residential. So they agreed to that, and we amended the contract in 2019. The issue is that before I change slides, the restaurant would go down here by the vet clinic. They own this land as well, so that's the site that they were offering. However, since, and this is just kind of a reminder what it looks like, the second phase behind the existing 7-story apartment would be another 7-story apartment and a 4-level office, and then this is what the steakhouse, that site would look like. They also added additional retail and office, but that wasn't a requirement for them to have to do that. So the opportunity came to connect them to Norton Scott because we have this building next door here that's perfectly situated for the steakhouse and makes more sense from a parking situation. So both parties are close to an actual lease agreement, but one thing is that they can't actually do this legally right now because the steakhouse is required to go to another site. So I'm requesting that we give them the option, so we don't remove that other site as an option. We just add this site here, Building C, as additional option so that they enter into a lease with Norton Scott for Building C. Then they can go ahead and get building permits for, and also the building permits for the office. If they do both of those things, then they can get the building permit for the apartment. And once they're open and operating their business, and also getting a certificate of occupants for office, then they can finally get their certificate of occupants for the apartment. So that's the amendment that I'm recommending be approved. Dean crafted the attached amendment before you all, and we're requesting a vote for approval. Thank you.
Comments or questions?
I have a question. So when would it be fully online? What's the anticipation or estimated?
If they sign it, their goal is to be open by this fall. Yeah. It's just going to depend on crossing the I's and everything else, but yeah, they were out here earlier, actually this week as well. The steakhouse company kind of surveying the area.
Quick question. So what are we going to do with the land that they were originally going to occupy?
Right now, that remains undeveloped, and I would plan something for that in the future. I would say focus first on getting this completed on this side, and then we can start looking at down the road what to do on the other side of the tracks.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Comments or questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've been hearing about this steakhouse from day one. It's like the white unicorn, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's talking about it versus action, right? If they're actually going to be, are they planning to do phase 2 apartments? Is that why this is coming to the table right now, or?
Well, it's coming to the table because, one, they were looking for something in this market. They have a relationship with EMSI. They require a lot of parking. They like the fact, when they came out here, they like the fact that the garage is going up right next door. You know, it's an expensive lease if you've tried to lease that space. This company's willing to pay a lot for that, so they're one of our best hopes to getting that space leased out. So we're hopeful that they can cut a deal. But a deal seems to be in hand. It's just that they're ready now. Both
That's
parties
great,
asked for this amendment so they could do the deal.
No, I'm all for the deal. I hope they come to follow through. I mean, this has been years. I think before even me, I think they were talking to you about a steakhouse.
Yeah.
And I just don't like the fact that they're holding future development hostage.
Oh, no. The future development, they're not, I don't think it's related, right? Like, we would be holding them hostage, right, if we said.
Oh, so this is not the first part they have to do before?
They can do it all concurrently.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's just we weren't going to let them build the apartment unless they did the other pieces as well.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Follow up? No? Questions? No? Any final questions? Okay, thank you, Laszlo. The recommended staff motion is that the governing body approve and authorize the mayor to sign the second amendment to the purchase and sale agreement for City Center Phase 2 as presented and subject to final city attorney review.
Still moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to 11C, one-day event liability insurance for the Latino Festival. Councilmember Amaya, would you give us an introduction?
Sure. So to make it easier for us to be able to provide services for the Latino Festival, like the stage, sound, and LED lights, I was thinking that we could get a one-day event liability insurance for the city so that I can cover all those services coming in to help us put the festival together. So I just want to know if that's something that governing body will support.
I'm supportive.
I think, yeah, definitely. That's a very practical solution to a need.
And then my question is, well, we probably should do that for other like events.
Yes.
So would we get, and this is probably more for the city manager, is there some type of insurance policy that would, I guess it's like an umbrella, I don't know insurance very well, but like an umbrella policy that would cover all these disparate one-day events?
Yeah, that's what I'd like to actually pursue, is getting a contract or company, a contract with the company that we list the events during the year that we would want the insurance, and lay out the policy, what the coverage would be, and then we could end up rolling Latino Festival. I don't want to slow you down though this year, but I think for all events it makes sense, or for bigger events it makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I just got a
Comments or questions?
Yeah, I got a question. I mean, do the vendors, don't they provide insurance?
So most of the vendors that help us out with the Latino Fest are kind of friends of friends.
I see.
And so most of them are in Maryland, so in order for us to be covered, just in case, they do have insurance, but I just want to be double safe, based on the fact that they're not here in Virginia, and so that we have that cover.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, we need a motion for this. Dean, we don't have a motion. Can you craft a motion on the spot?
Okay, is it for just the Latino Festival, or is it for the city manager's suggestion?
Just the Latino Festival for now.
Okay, so let's see, what, did you have anything at all that you presented, like a handout or anything?
I did
Or
not.
is it just like,
No, there was no
Okay,
paperwork. There was no paperwork.
and this is, so it's just general liability insurance for the event itself, which would cover all the vendors, is that correct?
Correct.
So the most of them would be the governing body authorize the city manager to acquire insurance for the Latino Festival that will cover all vendors for general liability.
Yes.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thank you. Thanks, Dean.
I have a follow-up question to Dean, real quick. Dean, if it's held in city grounds on the Park and Rec, wouldn't the city already have liability insurance if someone slipped and fell or got hurt?
We do have insurance for events that we're contracting for, and I don't know, I'd have to check with Lana to see what kind of coverage we have for, the big issue is a contractor does something, or somebody gets hurt, at the contractor's event, and then they get sued, and then we get lumped in because, clearly the city's got deep pockets.
Right.
So the idea would be that we would be protected. Now, clearly, we are probably, we are not liable for simple negligence if it's a governmental act. So since we're out there and we're acting like, we're sponsoring this thing, it's probably not a governmental act, so we might actually be liable. So I'm not sure what our insurance would cover.
Okay.
And I think maybe Lana and I can follow up with the insurance carrier tomorrow to find that out.
So this new liability insurance, like say if someone got food poisoning, that would be covered. If someone got hit by a car in a parking lot, that would be covered.
It should be, but I can definitely forward the information to you guys,
I
and then
guess
whatever, yeah.
we would need a
I
copy.
did this for the Salvadorian Festival in the city of Manassas. They actually do require one-day event,
Yeah.
insurance liability. And I think their coverage was like either $1 million or a $2 million umbrella. So when I got it with them, it was like an $100 expense. So I don't mind covering that with the festival, just so we can be safe.
How much?
900.
Oh.
Other jurisdictions do this as well. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Number 12, our second public comment time. Is there anyone who would like to make public comment? Seeing no one? Yes, yes, ma'am.
So, providing nature behaves, we will have the Brandy Station Block Party this Saturday, providing nature behaves. Right now, I think I said 80% chance of rain. But if watch social media, we'll post it up there. We'll be picking up some trash while we're there. There also will be nonprofits there. We'll have some handouts, candy. What else do we have? Bouncy house.
Bouncy house, popcorn, and cotton candy.
So hopefully, maybe I get to go play in the bouncy house. I don't know if I'm allowed to.
Could you retake the time, or restate the time?
Mhm. It's from 10 to 1,
10 to 1.
providing nature behaves.
Yes.
And if nature doesn't behave, then we'll move it to another day to be determined. So we hope to see everyone there.
That's Saturday?
Yes,
Saturday.
this Saturday.
What is the weather report supposed to be?
This morning when I looked, it was 80% rain.
Oh, Okay,
So we'll make a decision again.
yeah.
We'll probably have a discussion starting Thursday night into Friday morning about what
Yes,
we're gonna
okay,
do.
Okay, thank you.
We're getting really good at that.
Yeah.
And thank you, Sarah, last week for the information.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone who would like to make public comment? Okay, last call. Okay, city managers report.
Nothing to report tonight, just I'll save my thank yous for April 23rd. Thanks.
Okay, absolutely. My understanding is we do not have a closed session, so do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion carries. Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.